Hi, boys and girls, it's Miss Trotter, and today we're going to read Golden Delicious, a Cinderella apple story. It's about these brothers looking for that one special apple that can maybe make them famous and rich. We'll see what happens. It was apple season in the fall of 1905, and the Stark brothers' nursery in Louisiana, Missouri was flooded with apples. They were sent by farmers who hoped they had grown the world's best new apple, one of the Stark brothers would want to sell to all their customers. So they are the Stark brothers. I feel like the prince who tried a glass slipper on one smelly foot after another to find Cinderella. Paul Stark said to his brother, Lloyd. Paul had just tasted another disappointing apple that sure had looked like royalty. But all those disappointments didn't stop the Stark brothers from dreaming about finding the perfect apple, one that could be crowned queen of the apple world and bring them fame and fortune. Meanwhile, miles and miles away in the hills of West Virginia, Anderson Mullins was inspecting his new farm. It had been a hot summer and everything was dry as dust. He hadn't reckoned on coming face to face with a miracle. Holy cow, he exclaimed. There, in the midst of his dried-up apple orchard, was a glorious green-leaved tree, its branches loaded with shining golden apples. He snapped one off and took a bite. Never had he tasted an apple so sweet, so juicy, so gosh darn delicious. For the next 8 years, during wet seasons and dry seasons, Anderson Mullins' tree produced bushels and bushels of those golden apples. Every time he entered them in the Clay County Fair, they won blue ribbons. Each year, his tree produced fruit when other trees didn't. Come springtime, when the other apples had been in his fruit cellar all winter were wrinkly and dried out, his golden apples were still fresh and sweet. He was sure they were like no other apples in the whole wide world. Does this make you want to go get an apple? So, in the spring of 1914, Anderson Mullins searched his fruit cellar for 3 of the most perfect golden apples he could find and sent them to the Stark brothers' nursery. He knew the Starks were always on the lookout for new and better kinds of fruit, and he was hoping for some extra dollars to put in his pocket. By and by, the apples arrived. Mullins' yellow seedling samples. Paul Stark read, blowing sawdust off the card. Don't waste your time on them, his brother Lloyd muttered. Yellow apples don't sell. Tough skin, bland taste, and they don't keep well. But Paul had just bitten into a slice. Lloyd! Lloyd! He yelled, and he shoved a piece in his brother's mouth. Taste. Taste this. Look at his face. That apple must be really good. Juicy, said Lloyd. Crisp and spicy, said Paul. Even though it's at least 6 months old. This can't be a yellow apple, Lloyd exclaimed. It's not, said Paul, his smile bigger than a giant slice of watermelon. It's not a yellow apple. It's a golden apple. This just might be our Cinderella, shouted Lloyd. So, they think they found that special apple. Paul Stark found it hard to wait till the next apple harvest season. When fall finally came, he traveled hundreds of miles to see that golden apple tree. First by train, then by horseback, over winding mountains and roads, he reached Odessa, West Virginia. The sun poured down hot as apple butter just out of the kettle. His white shirt stuck to him tighter than the skin on a grape, but he didn't skate. He didn't care. He's really wanting to see this apple tree. At last, on a dusty country road along Porter's Creek near Odessa, Paul saw a mailbox that said, A. H. Mullins. He knew his journey was almost to an end. No one answered when he knocked on the door, so he set out on his own to find Mullins' orchard and its extraordinary tree. Paul wasn't used to hills as steep as those in Clay County, West Virginia. Sweating and gasping for breath, he climbed and climbed. At first, he found only some scraggly old trees, but then he saw it. A tree with rich green leaves, its branches bent to the ground with the weight of a great crop of gorgeous, glowing, golden apples. Paul couldn't help himself. It was as if his hand reached out by itself and plucked one. He was biting into it when a farmer came striding down the hill toward him. "My name's Paul Stark," Paul told the farmer. "That's some apple." "Name's Mullins," the farmer said. "I sent you some." "I know," Paul said, "and I'd like to buy that tree from you." So the two men put their heads together and agreed on a price. Paul Stark hired workmen to build a cage to protect the tree from animals and thieves. He even ordered a wire strung from the locked cage to a battery-powered burglar alarm in Anderson Mullins' kitchen. When Paul Stark left Mullins' farm, he took a bundle of twigs from the golden apple tree with him. In early spring, those twigs were grafted onto some of Stark Brothers' apple trees, cut into the stems and wrapped tight so the two would grow together. Paul and Lloyd watched over them as if those grafted trees were hens getting ready to lay golden eggs. Those young trees grew quickly. It wasn't long before beautiful golden apples filled their branches. And what did Paul and Lloyd Stark name their apples? That was easy. Golden Delicious. In 1919, Golden Delicious won a medal for the world's best new apple. You might say it was crowned Queen of the apple world. Golden Delicious, and Cinderella apple story. And I don't know if you noticed this, but the author's name is Anna Egan Smucker, as in Smucker's Jellies and Jams. I hope you enjoyed the story. Bye-bye.